Straw Hut Media.
Welcome to Release Date Rewind. I'm your host, Mark J. Parker, a movie lover and movie maker, and this is a podcast that celebrates milestone anniversaries in film. Thank you for listening to this show on the Straw Hut Media Network, wherever you get your pods, or watching on YouTube. We have a special two-parter here, and I'm calling it Pitt Fest. Yes, as in Brad Pitt. In this first part, we're taking a bite out of the 1994 horror drama Interview with the Vampire, which was so popular 30 years ago that it held the record for having the highest opening weekend for a Brad Pitt film until Ocean's 11 in 2001. If you'd like to watch or rewatch this Neil Jordan movie, it's not currently streaming on any streamers with a subscription in the US, but you could rent it, borrow it from your library, or find it online somewhere. We'll also compare this movie to the new AMC Plus show, so stay tuned for that. All right, movie star bloodsuckers, whip that long hair back and forth because it's time to rewind. Part one, my friends, is beginning with the one and only Sabrina Santoro. She is back. Hi, Sabrina.
Hi. You made me sound like a celebrity.
Yes. Hello, my vampiric vixen from the darkness, re-emerging.
People listen to this, all the time. They're probably like, this one girl comes on only for these type. I swear I love other movies. I swear. But I think I'm just,
You totally do. But yeah, this is your wheelhouse. And also, I love that. And I'm so glad you were available for this because you have been on every fall for the last few years. You did start in May. That was our first episode together, was The Craft and Twister.
Yes.
But then ever since, it's been like October, November. Last time you were on was Practical Magic, one of the best. Last October,
like 20 million times this year.
Oh my God. I mean, it's just so good. What do you think about the sequel news that they're going to do a sequel? What do you think about that?
I'm excited, nervous. I'm always excited and nervous for them.
Yeah.
Because you never know which direction it's going to go.
I know. And so some friends that are going to come on the show for a Little Women next month, also starring the great Kirsten Dunst. What a back-to-back
Little Women
hit. Right? She was killing
tears
it.
my heart.
End of 1994. I love that 94 version.
It's my favorite version.
Right?
She's in Sarandon. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Mark,
Oh my God, the cast. I know. So my friends that are going to come on for that, I've known them for years. We also have talked about Practical Magic. And I said, I forget who talked about it, but they were like, let's do a little book club. And I said, hey, there's the sequel book that is now going to be turned into the movie. Let's all read it or listen to it.
There's 3 of them, right?
There's a bunch of them, but the some of them are prequels. And I remember we talked about this on the show. But then Alice Hoffman wrote a sequel book a few years ago, which is called, now you would think I just listened to the whole, I borrowed from the library. It was like 17 CDs. I didn't even know my car had a CD player. I'm like, whoa, this is a blast from the past. They didn't, because I couldn't get the audiobook version. So I had to get the CDs. Is it Book of Shadows? I think it's just called Practical Magic Book of Shadows. Anyway, it's not that good. Have you read or?
It sounds very Marvel universe.
Yeah, it was not. I just didn't. I didn't really care about it.
I didn't read it.
Yeah, so I think they're gonna really have to make some changes for the sequel movie to be exciting, because the audiobook was not so exciting. I gotta be honest, guys. But enough of that. I want to hear from you, Sabrina. How you been? You just saw Wicked, the biggest movie in the world right now, breaking all sorts of November records, which is funny because this movie was breaking November records 30 years ago. So how funny that now we have a new hit. So in your own words, don't spoil too much for us, but was Wicked as amazing as they say?
It exceeded my expectations. It is so magical, so wickedly fabulous. I was probably crying through most of it, but I felt like my inner child. Wizard of Oz means so much to me.
Of course.
And I went to see Wicked with the original Broadway cast in 2004.
Yes,
same day,
we were talking about this
at AMDA.
Yes, that's right.
And I felt like, and that's where I ended up going. So I kind of always felt this connection to the Wizard of Oz and then to Wicked, and just that being my path of my passion. I wanted to win all the awards.
I hope it does.
I'm telling you, it is you leave there feeling like you somehow found your inner child again.
Wow.
And like for me, that's how I felt. And I felt it such an emotional, like there's no place like home feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling was like there. And I just like, I'm getting emotional. I just want it. It was just, during this time of year, I think it's perfect.
You know, Defying Gravity and some of those wicked songs from the Broadway show, they were on my iPod. Like, and I was not a major show tune, like love a bunch of show tunes, but I wasn't listening to them on my iPod all the time.
Right.
Only some. And like, so knowing that this movie is so good and that they're so great.
That song
that's
was
amazing
great too. I was holding it in so hard and there was like just tears because it was just so powerful.
All right, I'll be seeing it soon. I love it. And it's the biggest movie right now, much like how Interview with the Vampire was the number one movie 30 years ago. People were eating that up, much like they're eating Wicked up. We're going to eat just like Lestat and Louis were eating up all these pretty girls. It was so awful for them. Or rats, exactly. Or chickens.
Yummy.
Or, you know, Louis was not, I guess he was sort of considered a bit of a vegetarian, even though he's, you know what I mean?
I think
in the beginning.
Crossing over towards,
he was really trying to hold off on not eating the people, not drinking their blood and going for the, you know, sewer critters, but you know, he had to come around eventually. But everybody, let's rewind. Let's go back, Sabrina, 30 years ago to November 11th, 94. 30 years ago, everybody, Interview with the Vampire, the film came out. Of course, we will at the end talk a little bit about the show that's super popular right now. I wanted to try to start in time for this, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I've heard nothing but good things. I know you've seen the first season and you like it, Sabrina.
I did like it. Yeah, I do have to catch up on the second season. But I enjoyed it very much. It's a very different take.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm into it. I know there's some different races involved now to kind of diversify.
Oh yeah, and they make their relationships very clear.
Which,
interesting. But they probably couldn't do. They could have done, but
but 30 years ago with these big stars, they had to be sadly more careful. Although on this rewatch, Sabrina, wow, I forgot just how close Brad Pitt and Antonio Banderas are getting in that scene. Oh my God, girl.
And Antonio was my first crush.
Was he?
Because of Evita. I was in like 5th grade, I think. My mom took my sister and I to see it in movies. I remember being like, who is this man, the sexy Spaniard, like singing to me, you know, with his sexy eyes and everything. I don't know. I was a
love
grader.
that.
Why would I have a crush on Antonio, who was probably in his late 30s, early 40s?
Oh, yeah.
Time?
Probably, yeah.
But there was something about him.
I believe it.
You know, that was him coming off of Desperado and like Assassins.
Assassins, Sabrina, you are speaking my language. I loved Assassins as a kid. And I remember I was like, wow, who's that guy? Assassins, it was him versus, was it Sylvester Stallone?
Yes, it was.
Oh my gosh. And I remember Julianne Moore. That was when I like first met Julianne Moore. Oh my God. Yeah, that was, I think, probably 95, 96, maybe just a couple years after this.
Desperado was around the same time.
I want to say that was 95. Yeah. So this was really starting his, you know, real, you know, we between him and Kirsten Dunst,
like United States. Yeah. He was really crossing
some real breakthroughs. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So those scenes, I
know.
Especially the end.
Oh yeah. I know. I was like, wow, I forgot this part because it had been a little while. You know, I've seen this movie a bunch and I've always, it's kind of like one of those movies, even though it does, I'm not good with blood. You know, I love horror. I love gothic, spooky. But like, some of the fighting. I know. And some of the fighting, and especially his like pointy thimble stats, you know, on the wrist or the neck. I'm like, whoa, you know, so I can't.
Yeah.
I kind of have to watch, you know, and we were just talking about The Substance offline, you know, love it. But like, there were scenes I was not looking whatsoever. I'm just
I tell people to tell me like when it was okay to look. So
exactly.
I can't do needles. I can't do blood.
So yeah, there were some moments still, even though I love this movie and it's kind of like a warm blanket, I still have to kind of look away because, you know, it just gets a little too vampiric for me. But we're going to talk about our favorite scenes in a moment. We're going to talk about where these actors were in their careers. But first up, Sabrina, I'm just going to set the scene. I'm going to jog our memories. We were kids, but this is what was going on in November 94.
What do you say we get started?
Like we were just saying, Sabrina and I are theater people. That's where we met.
Oh, yeah.
How funny, Sunset Boulevard is very popular right now on Broadway with Nicole Scherzinger. 30 years ago, the musical from Andrew Lloyd Webber, Sunset Boulevard, was about to open on Broadway and about to take over the Tonys. I think it ended up winning, I think I read like 7 Tonys. So how funny. Yeah.
That is
When it was
funny. Look at
originally,
that.
right? It was opening just about a week after this movie came out. So it must have been in previews when this was out, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So that was about to be a big deal. On the music side, I'll list the top 3 songs and you're going to love this. Okay. Number 1,
wait.
everybody, was I'll Make Love to You by
Oh my
Boyz II Men.
gosh.
That was a huge song.
Yes.
Number 1 for like, I think I saw at least like 12 weeks at number 1, maybe even more.
Still
Months
a
and
classic.
months.
It's
Right?
still a classic song.
Boyz II Men, yes. And then number 2 was All I Wanna Do Is Have Some Fun, right? From Sheryl Crow. How funny.
Sorry, I'm keep singing it.
It's funny because like I kind of forget that she was
song.
around that
I remember the
early.
music video.
Oh, yeah. Very
Yeah.
iconic video.
Yeah.
Mhm. For some reason, I just always thought that was more late 90s, but no, it was early to mid 90s.
You know what? I agree. There was times I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
things were early 90s when I really thought it was like 97, 98.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Sheryl Crow was so popular a little later with even more songs, you know? So it's like, oh yeah, that was 94. So that was the number 2 song. And number 3, everybody, was one of my faves. You play this and I am on the dance floor. Another Night from The Real McCoy.
Oh,
Another dream.
It's like a vision of seems to be true.
Between those 3 songs, right? I'm just like, take me back. Wow, those 3 songs give me such a vibe. And Madonna was in the top 5 with Secret. So, you know, this was a great time for music.
Was probably doing something.
Oh, I'm sure they were probably in the top 10. They were definitely around. Their album was out.
Yeah.
So that was what was happening on the music side, everybody. On the movie side, so like I said, this came out November 11th of that year, the same day as a movie I remember seeing in the theater. I didn't see Interview with the Vampire in the theater. Did you?
No, I
doubt
wasn't
it.
allowed to. My parents, I remember my parents going on date night because they would do like regular movie date nights.
Cute.
And I remember, I don't know why I remember this, but I remember my mother coming home because she read all the Anne Rice books, and this is where I get my fear-loving books and Stephen King and all that stuff from. She was like, it was gross at times because of the rats.
That's so funny.
She enjoyed it, but like I just remember, like for some reason, I remember her like complaining about the rats.
The rats. I mean, it is quite gross how they're like draining rats into glasses and like Brad's in the sewer.
I was not allowed to watch until I was a little bit older. So
when this was out, the only thing I remember, I don't even remember seeing commercials or trailers for it. I just was totally unaware, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the poster. I want to say it was at the Camden Aquarium because I'm South Jersey boy, and I want to say I was there on a school trip and I saw this poster, and I just remember like this vision of seeing it in the daytime and being like, whoa. And like, you know, we were creepy kids. We liked our horror, even though some horror we weren't seeing just yet. But I was like, ooh, that looks kind of good. And I couldn't wrap my head that was Tom Cruise because I'm pretty sure I knew who he was at this time. But the way, you know, because his face is pretty large and a little obscured on the poster. And I was like, whoa. And he's blonde and his nose. I just was like, oh, that looks like a different Tom Cruise. So I was very mesmerized by that poster, but didn't really get to see it until much later. But a movie I did see opening weekend, same weekend, was The Santa Claus. Tim Allen.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Big Christmas classic, of course. You probably saw that in the theater,
oh,
right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. That was such a big
every
deal.
Year. I still watch it every year.
Right? It's so good. And I know
classic.
Tim Allen's like pretty consivative and annoying and whatever.
We
but
birthday.
Oh,
but we're not
sorry.
the same age. We're not the same age, guys.
Not the same age. No.
I
like how you clarified that.
I share a birthday with him, the Olsen twins.
Oh, that's a big
Chris
one.
Evans, I think.
Oh, okay. You got some good ones.
Yeah.
All right, good. I share it with Kristen Stewart, Jesse McCartney. He and I are the exact same age. Dennis Quaid, who was just in The Substance, another conservative, not so great guy, but you know, he's a good actor. That's all I can think of now. But every now and then I like stumble upon more people. I'm like, really? But anyway, I digress. The Santa Claus was number 2 that weekend because Interview came in at number 1. Other popular films within the top 10. There was Stargate with Kurt Russell, sci-fi movie. There was Pulp Fiction, of course, iconic Quentin Tarantino. Frankenstein, another gothic horror thriller with Robert De Niro and Kenneth Branagh. I did see that in theaters. I don't know why my parents took me to see that. I think we were trying to see something else. I don't know what else we were trying to see. And it was sold out. So my dad was like, well, Mark loves horror. I love horror. Let's go. Oh my God. That movie freaked me out at like 7 years old or whatever I was. Oh my God. So that was in the top 10. No,
Yeah.
no, no.
No.
It's pretty brutal what happens to
Mm-hmm.
Helena Bonham Carter. Oh my God. So yeah, that was pretty
Yeah.
scary. And then another one, The River Wild with Meryl Streep. Do you remember that one? I
I don't
love.
know if I.
Oh, The River Wild is her and Kevin Bacon is the bad guy, and they're on a raft in a
I
crazy
don't think I
river.
ever seen it.
Oh, check it out. She is in like
Oh.
action mode. Oh, it's so good. I almost talked about it on this pod, but I just didn't have time in September. But that also was popular at this time. Came out September 94. And last but not least, still in the top 10 from summer 1994. This was at a time when movies were in theaters for months, everybody. Forrest Gump. That was
Oh
still
yes.
huge. Yeah, with
Did
Tom
you see
Hanks, of course.
trivia about this?
No,
That
what?
apparently Tom Hanks was in the running to possibly play lestat, and I almost died laughing. I'm
I did
sorry, but can
hear.
you
Mhm.
imagine? I can't
Yep,
imagine.
that's
I
too
can't
silly.
imagine.
No. Yeah, no. He's not right
Just
at
because he was
all.
doing
At
that
all.
movie, he was doing
Right.
Forrest Gump, so that's what.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
So you want me to tell you the story of my life? I'll tell you my story. I'll tell you all of it. Gee, how? I'm flesh and blood, but not human. I haven't been human for 200 years.
I know some people don't love Tom and Brad in these roles, and we'll talk about them in a
Yes.
second.
Oh yes.
Especially, I mean, Brad's pretty good. He's a little stiff,
He's a little
whereas
stiff.
Tom is a little over the top, like really reaching for the stars. But you know,
I think it works though.
I think it
I'm
works.
not a Tom Cruise fan. I'm not gonna lie.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a Tom
Oh, yeah.
Cruise fan. But this movie, I'm okay with.
Okay.
Him.
Yeah,
I am.
I think
It's
it
fine.
works.
I think
They
it
balance each other
works.
out, right?
Yeah.
They balance each other out. Everyone's kind of acting at their different degrees, and I think it works pretty well. But again, I'm a fan of this movie. I know some people, like I was talking to some people who love the show, and they say the show is way better, and this movie has not
See,
aged well.
I'm
I
still,
you
I'm still
still
a
like this
fan.
one? Yeah.
Yeah. You
Uh-huh.
know what? Because I think it also, I don't know if it's just because of, we kind of grew up
Yeah.
more with it, because when I was in middle school, I'm going to shout out to my friend Megan because I'm going to tell her to listen to this. We were up all of our sleepovers, like all of our parties that were either at like my house or her house. We always want to watch it because we were always the ones still staying up late.
Love it.
And all of our other friends would be like, no, we don't want to watch this. Why do
That's
you guys
so
like
funny.
it? It's
Yeah.
so boring. It's blah, blah. And I was like, well, then go to sleep.
Yeah. You're like, go to
We were
sleep.
obsessed with because we were obsessed with Johnny Depp during that time.
Oh, of course.
And Brad Pitt. Yeah, and Brad Pitt. So like any movies that they were in, we always had to watch. And I just
This was totally an era
and
of
Christian
like
Slater.
Christian Slater. Oh my God. I was going to say, this was an era of very pretty leading
Yes.
men. Like
Yeah.
everyone's hair was just so great. And like
it was
everyone had
long
such
and luscious.
and it's funny because Johnny and Brad, I was just actually looking it up because I am in the middle of it. It's due back at the library. Whoops, please don't overcharge me. But I just borrowed for the first time. I've never seen it. Ed Wood starring Johnny Depp, Tim Burton.
Oh my God, it's
It's
so funny that you're saying that because I really was trying to like.
You should check it out if you haven't seen it. Yeah.
I need to watch it.
Get it. I'm sure it's online or borrow it. But and he looks so good. And I was looking him up, his age, and he and Brad are like the same age. They both are. They were born the same year, and so it makes a lot of sense that you guys were, of course, obsessed with the two of them because they were, they weren't old. They were like around 30.
Beat,
teen beat. So like
every issue,
still total heartthrobs, but now entering like real. Leading man, like an award-worthy leading men, especially like Johnny, I think was already nominated for Oscars and Brad was about to be, So yeah, it was such a time for these very attractive leading men. And Tom Cruise too. He looks really good. I was watching interviews. He doesn't look so good in this movie. He looks kind of freaky even when he's not like that amazing makeup when he's really scary. But interviews about this movie, oh my gosh, he looked great. He had longer hair, like a little bit of facial hair. I'm like, okay, Tom, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I get you, But now, Sabrina, I'm going to throw it over to you for a second in your own words for anyone out there who's too scared, doesn't know what this movie's or this story, I should say, because of course it's based on a famous book. But in your own words, it could be short. What's the gist? What is Interview with the Vampire about?
Oh, I was about to go into the book, but it's different than the movie.
Mm.
So basically, it's about Louis. That's Brad Pitt's character.
Yes.
He owns a plantation. In the movie, he just recently dealt with his wife dying in childbirth, and well, I guess his unborn child. Yeah, and so he's depressed. He doesn't want to live anymore. He's kind of just like over life. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. In comes Tom Cruise, aka lestat, like sees this, is like, oh, I think I want this guy to be my companion. We'll get more to that later.
Quote unquote companion.
And so he kind of gives him the choice I never had, because he says it just like that.
Yep.
It's so dramatic, because we always laugh at that when we were little, my friend and I. Sorry, it's just so funny. And then so he gives him the choice, but not really. He doesn't really give him a choice. He becomes a vampire, and it's not your typical vampire movie with like, ooh, I'm Dracula, or ooh, I'm gonna like kill everybody. It's very much about, it's kind of like they're real people, like real humans, but as vampires, if that makes any sense. You know, dealing with, feelings and emotion and transitioning in a sense.
And survival, just trying to like, live and like any sort of happiness, right?
Yeah. And then they come across Claudia. Unfortunately, her family was wiped out with the plague, and they kind of make her into their quote daughter.
Right.
She's the
which is so twisted,
that never grows up, which is awful.
I know.
And
you really feel for her.
Interesting deaths.
Oh yeah.
And
different countries, lots of traveling.
It's basically kind of like you're immersed into a journal of Brad Pitt's character. That's the best way to put it. Because I think in the book, it's basically him narrating. So
okay. Yeah, and he has his voiceover and during the interview.
He's basically narrating. Right. Oh yeah, that's the thing. The interview is with the most important part with Christian Slater. He's being interviewed, so he's telling his life story about why or how he has become a vampire, and this is where he's at today. And the interview takes place in the early 90s, at present moment, 1994 in San Francisco. And it kind of just goes back in time and tells them of how he was made and who was his maker, and this is where he is now.
And now, Sabrina, can you tell me, I mean, I just rewatched it, but the beginning is a little unclear for me. Why is he being interviewed? Like, do we know what Christian Slater's character like wants to like do with this interview? Is he gonna like write an article about him? Like, do we know anything about that?
Oh gosh, you know what? I haven't read the book since I was really young, so I feel like I should know this answer.
I know, like Brad says, like Louis says, like I was watching you, and I think his name's Malloy says like, oh, did you want
Malloy?
Did you want to drink my blood? And he said yes, but I wanted to talk first.
That was so funny when he was like yes. Just like yes. Not like hesitation.
Right? As he's like staring out the window.
He probably wants the interviewer, Christian. I think he also wants to be. He obviously wants to be turned into a vampire. He's something that's fascinating about the life of vampires, and
interesting. Yeah.
He
wants to see if they're real.
And
right?
I don't know. Yeah. So I think
he's like a little skeptical. I think he wants to like kind of hear proof of like, do you even exist? Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Brad Pitt knew, like, could tell that his vulnerability and kind of like, and he's like,
and also,
this is my way of telling my story and getting it out there, because this guy.
And also, Louis has lived quite a solitary life. You really feel for him. I mean, because like, I know we're jumping around, but once Claudia dies that terrible death, oh my gosh, everybody. I mean, it's heartbreaking really for him, and he's kind of like solo for the rest of, it seems, his life. So yeah, I guess it makes sense why he would want to just now share and like get all this off his chest. But yeah, the movie just sort of starts and I'm like, well, wait, like, can you tell me more about how you two met? Because they're just already in the room and they're just like, okay, let me start the tape. I'm like,
And the
Okay,
movie
what is this
starts with that
for?
beautiful song, that like
Yes.
operatic song that's very
Oh, yeah.
chilling. It's
The
so
score, the
chilling.
music is so
Oh,
good.
hmm
And the score was one of the 2 Oscar noms that this movie got.
even
It
with
got
the part
nominated for
where
music and
Louis goes
for
off on that killing spree in
oh
Paris with
yeah.
the theater of the vampires.
Yes.
That music is so,
Oh
I
yeah.
love it.
Oh
Such a
yeah.
good score.
It's both
It's very
quiet and
intense.
haunting, and then it's
Yes.
very intense. Yes, because
Hmm.
we got some intense moments. There's fire. There's
Oh yeah.
there's like group death going on, and yeah, that music picks up. But yeah,
Yeah.
the Oscar noms it got were for the score and for art direction, which makes perfect sense because the
Oh,
movie.
it
I
was
mean, it's a feast
beautiful.
for your eyes.
Yes.
The sets,
And
the
it's
costumes.
moody and
Yeah,
and the
I
thing is
love
with
the
this
swamp.
movie, I don't feel like it's a Halloween movie. I don't watch it really
Mm,
like I'm not like, ooh, during Halloween I'm gonna watch it. I
right.
can watch it year round. I think
Yeah.
it's just more of a drama, a moody drama, if you
Oh
want to
yeah.
say,
Oh yeah.
very
It's just a
atmospheric.
moody, gothic, like
Yeah,
historical
gothic
kind of
drama.
like a fairy tale in a way, a dark one, a grim one.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's funny because we've talked about that when you were on the show a couple years ago in November for Dracula, a movie we love,
They
another
actually
vampire
give,
movie you've
yeah.
talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And we were saying that was a November movie, and I mean
Yeah.
November
I
horror
don't
is
watch Dracula either
awesome,
for Halloween. Oh, I love
right?
it.
Yeah.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
November is a great month for that. Like Nightmare
For
Before
that kind
Christmas,
of
I actually watched
oh yeah.
either I watch it either on Halloween or like the day after
Or
Halloween. I always
after,
yeah,
yeah.
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 And I feel like it's such a
That middle
great
ground.
transition. Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like
Oh
these are
yeah.
great transition movies into like
Totally. Where
winter
there
and
are maybe scares and there's murder and there's really dark stuff, but
yeah,
it's
but
more
it's
of a
not
vibe. It's gothic and
right.
like it's not like jump scares. It's a real like totally enveloping
It's
like
chilling.
just
It's
spooky story.
haunting. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
And
And it kind of
it,
stays with you.
I love that you say you watch this year round because it's crazy. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think it might be accurate. I think the last time I saw the movie in full was years ago. I had just moved into my East Village apartment. This was back in 2009. So
Oh
I can't believe, I
wow.
think that was the last time I might have, I've seen clips, but like, I think, and it's so funny, Sabrina. So this was my second apartment in New York, just moved to a little box studio in near Alphabet City. And it was one of the
I watched
last
in Chelsea. I didn't
blockbusters.
know that you were down there.
Oh yeah, it was one of the last blockbusters, just a block away from me. It must have been
Oh,
between First
Blockbuster.
Ave and Avenue A. And oh
Hmm.
my God, Sabrina! So for whatever reason, literally, I had just moved in. I lived in this apartment not even a week. Maybe it was actually that weekend. And I thought, all right, I'm way too tired after like getting everything in order. Like I'm not gonna try to go out and hang out with people. I want to watch a movie. I want to run a movie. And I went to Blockbuster, and for whatever reason, I had a craving for Interview with the
You
Vampire.
said,
I'm like,
you know what? Like, those are the best times to watch it because it's like I don't
yes,
think about it every day. It's not one of those movies
right,
where I can just like put on TV every day or
yep,
like maybe once a year, maybe. But I feel like I actually haven't watched it
in a while.
in like a year, maybe
Couple
a
years,
year and a
yeah,
half, and that's like a
yeah,
lot for me because like I was obsessed with the movie and
yeah.
like
This is
loving,
one
and
of
I
your
always
go-to.
watch it. Yeah,
Well, much like a
yeah.
vampire craves that sweet, sweet blood, I was like, I'm craving this and it must have been DVD. Yeah, it wasn't VHS. But I go, and I'll
Mm.
never forget. I'm like, yeah, it's an old movie. I'm sure Blockbuster charges more for newer movies. In New York City, no, ma'am. I think I paid $5.99 to
Oh
rent it
my
for one
gosh!
night. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Okay, well, there goes part of my food budget for the night.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I was what, 2009, I was 22, I think. So, but and it was so fun to just, I think I got Domino's pizza probably, and I watched Interview with the
That's the
Vampire, and I just
perfect
had a
night.
little 90s night by myself
Yeah.
in my little apartment in noisy New York City, and I was loving it. So that's one of my favorite memories that I associate with this movie is, yeah, some nights you just kind of, and it was not fall, it was like it's probably like late August.
Oh
I seem
yeah.
to, and I just was like, I'm in the mood for some
It's
gothic New
definitely not a
Orleans.
seasonal movie. It's like a whenever you feel the need to watch
Yeah,
it, it's
yeah,
there.
I agree.
From the novel by Anne Rice. From Neil Jordan, the director of The Crying Game.
I've come to answer your prayers.
So Sabrina, you probably know a lot of this stuff. You said you read the book a
Mhm.
long time ago. I've never read
I
it.
read the actual series.
Oh, you
I
read the
read
whole
the Vampire.
series?
Yeah, I
There's a
read the
bunch of
Vampire
books in
Chronicles.
there. Wow.
It was Interview with the Vampire, Vampire of the Lestat,
Yep.
Queen of the Damned,
Yep.
and I think The Tale of the Body Thief. I want to say.
Okay.
Love Queen and Damned, and that was also
Yeah.
another movie that came out.
Yeah.
I just wish that they, I really wish I had done in order, or like the whole series somehow, some way.
It is really
surprising.
I
wonder if AMC is going to do that. I wonder if that's the.
I hope so. It seems like apparently, it's based on
obviously the Witches, but that's nothing to do with the Chronicles.
Right.
But yeah.
But that's another book that she's written, of course. Yeah, another Anne Rice. Yeah. But it's interesting. It seems like the show obviously is really following the interview book, but then I read that season 2 also intertwines, I guess, the book The Vampire Lestat. So it seems like they could continue, interweaving more, I think that'd be really smart. But yeah, it is shocking because this movie made over 200 million worldwide, everybody, but it's shocking we didn't get like an immediate sequel. It was a hit.
I know.
It was a success, but I guess Neil Jordan, who we'll talk about, the director, he started prepping and I guess started writing a sequel based on the next book. But then I guess just this movie and this series has been caught in development hell for years. Because then even long after Queen of the Damned,
maybe it was something to do with
she
her,
always wanted these to be made into movies. She was all for it. She didn't always love the casts.
Oh yeah.
But so I don't know what it was. Because even long after Queen of the Damned, I saw they were trying to get movies of some of those books. Jared Leto was in talks, like different people, but they always fell through. So, and not until Anne Rice got the rights back, apparently, I guess in 2014, 10 years after this, then there was real movement, still slow, on getting them made into a TV show.
Life has no meaning anymore, does it?
His name is Lestat.
But what if I could give it back to you? Pluck out the pain and give you another life. One you could never imagine. I can see you lying on a bed of satin.
She wanted Interview the Vampire to be a movie since, like, I think 2 years after she wrote it in 1976.
Right. Yes.
So I was reading up on that. And that was just like pushed away.
Well, get this. I'll tell you. Yeah. So I'll tell everybody. So 1976 is when the book comes out. Apparently, the rights for a movie were initially purchased by Paramount shortly before the book was even published, earlier in 76. So it was one of those situations. But for years, it was in development hell, jumping around from different studios. Finally, I guess it landed at Warner Brothers. Yes, like you were saying, different actors. She had her like prime actors in mind.
Rutger Hauer, I think. Right.
Rutger Hauer. I also heard Julian Sands, who passed away not that long ago, a British actor. She really wanted him for Lestat, which I could see, but he wasn't, a big enough exciting name. So yeah, lots of different versions and different styles. I think it's so impressive when a novelist writes the screenplay, but Anne Rice wrote the screenplay for this film, which is so interesting.
I think that's why I think a lot of people who read the books love the movie because
it's a good translation. A good adaptation. Yeah. It's rare for her to do that. So that's pretty cool. And this, I guess, was her first screenplay. Fun fact, a month before, one of her random books that I guess really was sort of butchered into this comedy movie, Exit to Eden, with Rosie O'Donnell and Dan Aykroyd, that had just come out a month prior. It's like a weird, funny sex romp, that was based on her book. She didn't write the screenplay. But knowing Anne Rice, it was not so much a comedy, but they really spun it into more of a
comedy.
Yeah, it was definitely spun into a comedy for the movie. So I don't think she was happy with that. So that was October 94. Now here's Interview. Luckily, a better experience for her.
Yeah.
But so the movie was directed by Neil Jordan, like I had mentioned. He had just come off of The Crying Game, big movie. He won the Oscar for a screenplay for that. He wrote and directed that. He directed this. And apparently, I don't know if it's completely factual, but I guess he was also involved in the screenplay. So even though it only is sole writing credit for Anne Rice, he he said his stipulation was, I'll direct, but I need to also be a little bit involved in the screenplay.
And again, he wanted to make it theatrical because remember, I read something where he had seen Dracula.
Yes, he was inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula.
How it was
Coppola.
So dramatic, theatrical.
Yes, theatrical, colorful.
But it wasn't like that typical corny vampire stuff that that's just like whatever.
Lavish, a big romance. Yes. Let me read you the quote that he says about Dracula because I love that you're bringing it up. He said, it was an influence. Up to that point, Francis Ford Coppola had introduced opulence and theatricality. Normally, before his film Dracula, I always thought of vampire movies as cheap, cobbled together, brilliant use of minimal resources. But Francis made it this epic. So when I was given the opportunity to make Interview, I thought, oh, it would be really great to expand on that epic sense of darkness and to give these characters huge romantic destinies and longings and feelings. So there
I
you
love
go.
that. And he did.
You feel it.
He did.
He really did.
He chose one man. He gave him infinite power, eternal life, and a daughter who would be forever young.
I thought it was interesting. This was at the time the highest budget for a vampire film. It was around $70 million for the budget. So that was unprecedented at the time for this kind of story. Usually much more lower budget for vampire.
I wonder if they got that because it was a book, and it
probably
was so well
because it was
received.
A successful book. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And because Coppola's movie was not only financial but a critical and an award hit. So people wanted to see some gothic historic horror,
Yeah.
So it makes sense for sure. And also, I just actually did a post about this recently on my Instagram. 94 was sort of the year of bringing back sort of the old movie monsters. We first had Wolf with Jack Nicholson, which I love.
Yes.
Modern day werewolf. We were just saying, Frankenstein came out only a week later with Robert De Niro. So we were seeing a resurgence in these old kind of classic stories, either modernized or, and now here comes more vampires. So I think it was all because of the hit that Coppola had 2 years prior, right?
Oh yeah.
So there
definitely.
you go. But so that was our key players behind the scenes. Real quick, we're going to talk about our 4 leads. Tom Cruise. I know he's not the best guy. Scientology is bad, but he was on top of the world at this time. He was already Oscar nominated for Born on the 4th of July. So he was a big star, as he still is. This was before Mission Impossible, which is wild to think about because he's been doing that for decades.
I think before Jerry Maguire too. Yeah.
Before Jerry Maguire, exactly. He had just done The Firm, A Few Good Men, and one of my faves with his then wife, Nicole, Far and Away. Love Far and Away. I just love the sweeping historical drama, right? So he had done those. This was a big salary for him. At the time, it was a record $10 million record salary and a percentage of the profits. So this was his movie, baby. He might not be in the whole thing. Brad is really the star, but Tom, took all that money, honey, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that was Tom. Speaking of Brad, he had just done these movies, The Favor, which I had never heard about, a lower budget kind of rom-com. He had done True Romance with Christian Slater. He had a smaller part in that.
Okay,
California, a gritty movie that I think he did with Juliette Lewis, who he was dating at that time then. And A River Runs Through It. Super cute, blonde, historical drama. This was right before he did Legends of the Fall. Sweeping long hair.
Year? Did it come out the same year?
It came out a month later. Yeah. So this was his big,
that was the other
like
movie that
sweeping. Oh, I'm sure.
The long-haired Brad. The
long hair, clean shaven, open shirt. Like, I mean, it's iconic, right? Moving over to Christian Slater, who we were talking about as the interviewer. He was in True Romance, which people love. Untamed Heart with Marissa Tomei. He was in a movie with Joe Pesci I didn't really know about. Jimmy Hollywood. That came out earlier in 94. And I got a shout out. He was just 2 years prior in Fern Gully. One of the voices in Fern Gully, one of my faves. I mean,
I was just bringing that movie up because they're doing construction next door. And I was like, I feel like it's Fern Gully with the trees being taken
That
down.
is so sad. Oh no, the trees.
I'm ready for Tim Curry to start singing to me.
Start singing Toxic Love and I know.
Fern Gully. I forgot
Fern
that
Gully.
he was the voice for
the lead guy, Zach. My confirmation name when I had to go to fucking CCD, I was like, I want my name to be Zachary, because I loved Zach and Fern Gully. So there you go. Little fun fact there. But you probably know this, Sabrina. Christian Slater was not originally supposed to be that role.
No, I know.
Tell us, who was it going to be?
River Phoenix.
But he died only
like
a month.
Months, or was it?
I think 4 weeks.
Oh, 4
right?
weeks. Yeah. I mean, I guess Christian just kind of swooped on in. And the best thing about this is that he gave all that money that he earned from the movie to, I think, charities that Phoenix was like a part of or something like that.
Yes, apparently to Phoenix's favorite charities. Yeah, which is amazing. Oh my God. That's so nice. Yeah. And God, the pressure. I mean, luckily he doesn't have a ton to do, but like, whoa. I mean, it's a big movie, big budget, big stars.
The thing is, you still remember him. Like when I think about this movie, I think of Christian Slater too.
Oh, totally.
So
Oh yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, we'll talk about that ending, but I love the
Oh,
ending. Whoa.
it's so
Just when you think it's
amazing.
ending, it's like, oh dang, But the film even has a dedication to River Phoenix
Yeah.
in the end
Mm-hmm.
credits. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. It just goes to show how on top of the world he was too, but then
Yeah.
he, passed away because
I
of
know.
drugs. And that was infamously at going back to Johnny Depp, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that at the Viper Room, which Johnny Depp owned, I believe, right? A club in
I think
LA.
so. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
I remember years ago being on a LA Hollywood tour and they took you by that. They're like, this is the Viper Room
Oh,
where
that's
River
great.
Phoenix died. I'm like, okay,
Lovely.
bleak Hollywood history. Okay. And
Uh-huh.
last but not least, the last star we'll talk about. We could talk about them all, but we got to talk about little Kirsten
Oh,
Dunst.
yes.
Oh my God. What
I
a
mean,
queen. What a star. What a breakthrough
honestly.
performance,
And I
right?
was watching it last night, and I've always thought this, but like thinking about how old she was when she had to like do this role, that's very, I mean, yes, in the beginning she could play a child, but really she's, at one point she's a 30-year-old woman that still looks
Oh,
like a 12-year-old, at one point she's,
right.
100 something, I don't know, but like, I'm just saying it's a lot, for an actor. I
Yes.
can't imagine that age having to like have that maturity and
Yeah. She must have
do
been
those
only around
lines.
10 or so. And
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
she commands the screen. She's my favorite. I mean, she steals the movie. She's just so
Was she
good.
going to be a
And like
doll forever?
right. When she screams,
Oh,
oh, you boys better listen. Like she is so good.
we used to laugh at that, but
yeah,
now looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's so sad. But
oh, I
like,
know.
Like that one shot of her mouth's open and the scream. It kind of gives me that. It reminds me of Dracula with Lucy. With the I always call it the Velociraptor kind of.
Yes. You're right. You're so right. With the I know.
Same look. That same scream.
I love that. Yeah, I love her in this movie. What? I mean, she had done a few things, but between this and like I said, Little Women the next month. Yeah. Holy cow, what a breakthrough end of 94.
She was great.
And she got a
Amy, but she was
I know.
She was great though.
Well, that's what's also fun. She played Brat so well, right? Like this was her niche. But she was nominated for a Golden Globe for supporting actress for this movie. I mean, and then Jumanji a year later. Oh yeah, she was an instant star. But before this, earlier in 94, she had a small role in a Michael J. Fox movie called Greedy. I didn't really know that one that well, but she's in that big like family movie. She's on the poster on the side. Mm-hmm. She also a few years prior was in The Bonfire of the Vanities and another smaller role with Melanie Griffith, I think Tom Hanks and Bruce Willis. So she was in that. But she had done lots of TV, popped up in different things. But this was a true star-making turn. And I just love, not for an Oscar, but for a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
I think she should have been nominated for an Oscar. I can't remember who was at the time. I know Anna Paquin around this time was nominated and won for The Piano. That might have been maybe a year after or before, I forget, but it was right around this time.
I remember.
So, another powerful role for a kid. But yeah, love her so much. I even posted this. I will always, one of my best memories, one of my favorite memories from this movie, a great moment is her transformation. When the camera's close up on her and you see her hair turning into these tight curls.
Like, and a doll. She literally was
like a doll. Mm-hmm.
Well,
and she gets pale.
But
right? Yeah. A walking, talking doll. And man, it's so twisted, Sabrina. Like I said, like
it is.
Rewatching it, I really feel bad for her. Like Louis is giving Lestat such shit for killing different women, which is terrible and terrifying, and we can talk more about that. But then here comes Louis running away from that and finding this girl who needs help. Her mom is dead, like flies on her, like looks scary, dead body, right? Because of the plague, exactly. And little Claudia holds Louis, she hugs him, please help us. And of all the people you're gonna bite this little girl, Louis. Okay,
I know.
mistake.
I think it's because, like, I think in the book too, they were like, oh, they had such a connection, and like, I don't. I'm still like, I get that, but
Yeah, I know. And then of course Lestat comes in and he's like, well, she's gonna die, so she either dies or we turn her. Oh my God, what? Yes, when he dances with the mom. Oh,
and that's
dark.
the difference between them too. Like he has, I think because he's lived such a longer life, like his emotions have completely gone off the door. Out the door. Like, he does not care. He's just like, I'm going to do what I want. Yeah, this is And then there's Louis, who's whining,
much more careful,
crying.
Yeah, I know. What is? I wrote it down. What does Lestat say at the end in the car with?
Louis, all that.
He says, He says, still whining,
Still
Louis. I
whining,
had to
Louis,
listen to
yes.
that for centuries when Christian
When he's
Slater's
like
playing
doing
the
his
tape.
like little like sleeves that are
Oh,
like,
yes.
oh gosh, silver and seam outfit.
But so I'll start us off with that's one of my favorite moments in this movie is
I love
Claudia's
it.
transformation and what she sits up and she says,
I want some more.
I want more.
She's immediately hooked. And man, she is a troublemaker. She's killing people left and right. I forgot how much comedy she brings to this.
Oh, she
Her
does.
piano teacher hits the piano. She just killed him. What did we tell you? Never in the house, right? Is that what she says? Something like
never
that.
In the house.
Never in the house. Sorry, right? Oh, she's such a troublemaker. So I got to shout out that. Hey, Rewinders. If you're loving this episode as much as I am, please leave a rating and review on the podcast app you're using or a thumbs up on YouTube.
This is the only real evil left.
And then he took the light of day.
I'm like right now. I was thinking about when they were and they're in Paris when it's just Louis and Claudia,
later on.
and they're watching the show that the vampires are putting on, pretending that they're humans, pretending that they're vampires.
Yes.
And that woman, I don't know why that woman in the audience always gets me every time.
What did she say? Like,
take me. He's like, you wait your turn.
I know, but
so
it's
silly,
twisted how they had
yeah.
fans that didn't even really know what was really going on, you know?
Like, that part always like weirds me out. Like that weirds me out, but it's just so creepy with the whole like, you know, having the human there and everyone's watching them. But like at the same time, it's so weirdly powerful.
Yeah.
And when that little boy that they have.
Oh, I know. Ooh, and how he like forces him on Louis, and Louis like goes to
like
bite the spot on his arm where like who is it? I guess it's Armand. It's like Armand's like toy, you know. He looks to bite at the one section, but he's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna turn you like the other side," you know, to get a clean bite, you know. Ooh, bleak. This poor boy being deranged.
Yeah, you know what? I do also love the beginning. Some parts in the beginning where Louis, you know, when he does his transformation, I think that's,
I love
he sees everything for the first time.
Yes.
And he goes by, you know, they're in the graveyard, but he goes by the statue, and you see like, because you're kind of trying to see through his eyes, and the statue like looks at him because he's seeing things that the human eye doesn't see.
Right.
In a sense. So I did love that.
I love when Lestat bites him for the first time and how they're flying. Like, whoa, I remember like as a kid, teen seeing this, I was like, whoa, that's interesting. You don't see that too often in vampire movies, you know, like just the power was lifting them up, and then Lestat drops him into the water, you know.
They really do make the whole feeding thing in like blood, like sexualized. Yeah. It's very sexualized.
It's really, it really creeps
novels,
me out. Yeah.
The way that it's portrayed. Yeah. And you can tell with Lestat and Louis that like there's definitely more there, and but it's like a normal thing. You don't really think anything. I mean, that's how I always viewed it. I never thought like this is weird or whatever, you know. I'm like, no, I'm like, this is
because there's such a sense of loneliness for all of them that it's like, I need someone to like be with forever, you know. But of course, it's not that easy, you know. You gotta like each other first, you know.
I love the part where Claudia kills Lestat for the first time.
Oh my god! Well, she's pissed because she can't even cut her hair. Poor girl. It grows. She is stuck. You know, and I love when Louis says to her, like, see that old woman out there? You'll never you'll never grow old. You'll always be this age. You'll never get older.
And I think you see in his face that he like regrets saying it.
Yeah. And I think he also, of course, regrets even putting her in this situation. It, you know, but she's so pissed for being stuck as a vampire. I love when she says, who did it? Who made me into what I am?
Which one of you did it?
Right? Which one of you did it?
And then they find that awful dead body rotting in her bed.
Yes.
The dolls.
Yes, right. Yes.
He's like, oh yeah, you should get rid of it. He's like, because he keeps getting her dolls. Because what else are they gonna get her?
I know.
And she's like, oh, you should throw these away. And then she starts like going crazy.
Crazy. And she's so fierce and it's so smart, actually. It's such a great character that Anne Rice created, because of course she's a kid. She can't really handle all these crazy emotions. So of course she's going to lash out. But I just love how she's a bit of a mastermind. Like she tells Louis, she's like, we have to get rid of him.
Oh yeah.
You know,
he's like, oh, we can't. She's like, really? She like walks away.
And the way she tricks Lestat, oh boy. So yeah, it was a little confusing for me because again, it had been a little while, but basically I had forgotten that it's not good for them to drink the blood of an already dead person. They need to be alive. I forgot about that. And so he immediately tastes that something's wrong. And these boys, and she's like, yeah, I killed them and I poisoned you, bitch, you know? And then she slashes his throat. And one of the best visuals, one of the best shots is the blood. I remember that well. His blood seeping on the carpet and moving towards their feet. And she says, Lily, pick me up.
Because I think in like a VHS, my VHS tape that I have, there were some type of specials after it, or like behind the scenes, and they were showing that robotic Tom Cruise that they made of Lestat when he's dying. So you can tell.
You can tell, but it's so spooky. Stan Winston did great makeup and effects, you know.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, I think it still holds up pretty well. I think when they dump the body in the swamp, like soon after, like I think he is so spooky looking, you know.
When he comes back.
Oh, and even before, right? But I also I love how when he comes back at the piano and the curtain is covering him.
Naughty girl, bad girls. I mean,
and he freaks out, right? And he's oh man, Tom Cruise is scary. I'm actually surprised. Well, I'm not surprised because he's always been so A-list for so many decades. But I actually think Tom Cruise should have been like a killer in a horror movie because he played one here so well.
But maybe
right?
he just feels a certain way about those.
Maybe it's just kind of quote unquote below him, but he could have easily played like a serial killer, and it could have been highbrow, But like he is spooky in this movie. I love and the way he looks. But someone said it on the YouTube video that I watched of this movie. But it's so true. Whenever Brad Pitt is angry, he just sets things on fire, and it's so true. He does it 3 times in this movie. I mean,
that's really funny, actually. Yeah.
Right. And I never thought of it until this rewatch. I'm like, all right, yet again, because he sets his house on fire. Right. That's the first time with the slaves there. What a shot with his plantation slaves celebrating and jumping around as the house is in flames. And he does that because he's already a vampire. He's just over it. Right. He just
live and he wants to die.
Life just sucks. Right. But Lestat keeps, saving him.
Saves him. Yeah.
That's the first time. Second time is this time when they kill what they think.
Second time.
Lestat. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're right. This is the second time because they've already killed him, put him in the swamp. He's now back. Now they set the house on fire. He's on fire.
Yeah.
Great scene. Love that scene. They flee. That's what gets them then to flee to Europe. Right.
Yeah.
But then again, fast forwarding to in Paris, once poor Claudia and her female companion, which I had forgotten about her,
Yeah.
They die
only in it for 2 seconds. She gets made a vampire, and then they get caught.
Right.
And I'm like,
but what a good role. I mean,
we
don't know her name. I don't even know her character's name. Do you remember what her character's name is? I don't even know.
I don't even know if there was.
There might not have been one. Yeah.
I just remember that she was daughterless too.
She acted sort of like
each other.
Absolutely. Because Claudia by then is getting jealous of Armand and wanting, because Armand really kind of wants Louis to be his companion. Louis really in demand, everybody. I mean, with Brad Pitt, it's perfect casting. How can you not? But so poor Claudia has died in that brutal, the sun.
That scene though, after when he's walking, because he's so angry and his eyes and the music, and then you see Stephen Wright, I think.
Yes. He's creepy.
I hate his character
devilish.
so much because it's like he does that like grin, like that, like we killed her. Sorry.
He's so like he's such a clown.
Like I know I did it. Buffoon is what he calls him.
The buffoon, yeah. The buffoon. But he is. He's like this twisted. He's almost like a vampiric Pennywise. He's like so playful and twisted, but his eyes. Wow, he did a good job in his smaller role for sure. He leads them to kill Claudia because would you say that's because of what they did to Lestat, right?
I think so because it was vampire code. And I think
vampire code.
Not to kill your own kind, right? Especially your maker.
Yeah.
And I think Armand also wanted Louis he wanted to travel with Louis, and he knew that Claudia would get in the way.
Right. Exactly. Because and Claudia knew that. I think she even says she's like,
that's why she
could like understand him.
that
Yeah, right.
companion.
She's like, I need a companion now because I
too
know
late.
I'm gonna lose you. But Louis didn't want to lose her. Louis loved being
know.
dad to Claudia. It's so sweet. Their
know.
father-daughter thing. And it's so cute. I was watching an interview where, because they have that brief kiss in the movie, and they
Yes.
both separately in their interview said, oh, it was so weird. Obviously.
I'm
I mean,
sure, because
especially for Brad, like, I'm kissing a kid. This is so weird. But even Kirsten was like, oh, it was so gross. It's like kissing your brother. Like, we were like brother and sister. And I just thought that was so cute. Because,
it was- yeah.
here she is, like, it's like you're kissing Brad Pitt, but you're
I
like,
know.
ew,
She's
he's my
like, ew.
brother. But then, so she dies, and he touches their the like kind of their form of ashes, and it withers away. What a shot!
Oh.
And that's when he sets his third fire, right?
Yeah.
He sets it on their whole really
theater.
amazing like
It's like
tomb.
It's like a catacomb.
It's like a catacomb under the theater. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
But he sets that whole thing up, and I just love that
music.
one really nasty female vampire in their group
with the
who's
red
like,
hair.
yes, when she comes in and
Pops out of the
basically
coffin, or-
kidnaps
yeah.
them, and the
Oh,
music's
yeah.
really going. She's crazy, but then she's losing her shit with the fire, and
then
yeah,
he
so
cuts what's his face, the buffoon, the clown, Stephen Ray's character in half. with
right, yes,
whatever that.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. See, that was a
is.
shot. That was, oh, you're right. Now I got to find that clip because that was edited out of the free YouTube video.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess.
Because I'm like, well, yeah, what happened to him? I couldn't remember, but now,
Gets split
I
in half.
remember. Because he's holding that like almost like a sickle or something, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what we called, and then he just goes. He just literally turns around and he just slices him in half.
Okay, well, when we're done, I'm watching that clip because that's iconic. Come
so
on,
good.
free YouTube.
And then he tries to go outside, but it's like daylight, and then that's when Armand and the little boy, he's like running the carriage.
Yes, the boy.
They literally grab him.
I did laugh when the boy's like, look. I'm
right?
like, okay, you're the one doing this? Okay, cool, whatever.
And then they go into some museum or something, and they're these big like fur coats.
Yes,
like
I know. It was so
coats.
like, I'm like, this is so funny
and that's
that they're
the
like
scene where you're like,
right.
I was ready for them just start making out.
I think if it was filmed in a different time, I think it was
they were literally this close to each other.
Oh my God, Brad is literally, his lips, I think, basically like touch Antonio's nose.
Yeah.
But if it was filmed, I think 10 years later, I think they would have totally had a full-on kiss. But yeah, that's when Armand, basically is cool with his whole group getting killed, right?
Because he knew it was coming.
He knew it was coming. He knew they were crazy, and he really wanted Louis. And Louis says, he's like, well, thank you for the invitation to be your, but he's like, but still, like, I don't like you, and I don't like what you okayed, right, with Claudia, and I'm going on my own. I'm going solo. It's funny because in years past, I always kind of, the second half of the movie, I don't know if it's exactly in the middle when lestat goes away, but let's just say, that's like the first part. And then the second part is all about, Antonio. I always got a little bored with the second half, but actually as an adult now rewatching for the first time in years, I kind of love it all.
Yeah, sometimes it's the other way a little bit for me, but
I still really love the New Orleans like that, and I just love creepy Tom Cruise when he's really. I wanted more of that, so it's just such a shift, and you can even feel the shift in the setting. That I'm like, oh right, now we're like totally in a different chapter of the story, and also it's literally like I wrote down the years. It starts in 1791, I believe, and then when they get to Paris, it's like it's 1870. Yeah. So it's like 80 years later, so you really feel a difference, but it is so fun to see them so dressed up. I love when Claudia's like dancing and twirling in her lavish outfits in Paris. But now how are they affording all this? It's because of Louis' money.
They probably
and they just steal. Right, that's true. I didn't think about that
too.
Yeah,
that was also a nod apparently to Dracula.
Oh, I was going to say, okay, the Demeter probably. The ship. Oh, that's fun. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I do love, I forgot, and you might remember from the last time you saw it, I forgot that Claudia is such a good artist, and it's a fun little montage movie of, I thought that was really clever to not only show how she's maturing, and she's wise, obviously, beyond her years that she looks, but it was a great way to just show how they're traveling all over together as a family, I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I kind of, forgot how actually the second half is pretty cool and twisted and dark. maybe because of Tom Cruise, I just remember the first half so well, and I do love it. And when I was in New Orleans, God, back in 2018
I
for
still need
work.
to go. I would love to
Oh,
go.
have you never been?
No.
Oh, Sabrina, you would love it. You got to go in
know.
October. I was lucky to go in October. I was there for a work trip. I was casting What Would You Do? Because they were shooting in the New Orleans area. So I was seeing a whole ton of actors in one day. And, you know, I'm there alone. So I'm like, I want to go on like a ghost tour. So they all were sold out, but the vampire tour was available. And we went and saw some locations of where they shot interviews.
Filmed.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it was so fun.
Because the in the beginning,
a lot of it really
and
was
also,
shot there.
No, wait,
even
I think they're in San Francisco. No, they're in San Francisco in the beginning.
They're in San Francisco for any modern stuff, but then all like the plantation stuff, and then
at the end,
we saw
yes, when Tom Cruise is like living in the mausoleum,
right? They go back to New Orleans,
because
that's when Louis says in his voiceover, he says in 1988 he found his way back to New Orleans and he was home, but then I guess he ends up in San Francisco, but
he's bored.
He's bored. He's like, all right, time for a change, I got to keep it fresh. But so it's cool how New Orleans is you really feel it, and all the cool architecture and the places they live, when they're fleeing from the second fire he sets, when Tom Cruise is in there, they're running out of this beautiful New Orleans building. I'm pretty sure I was standing outside of that building on the tour.
You're a vampire who never knew what life was until it ran out in a red gush over your lips.
A fun, gross, morbid kind of moment is when they are in the apartment with the two women.
Oh, I'm so glad you're talking about this. It is so memorable. That actress is amazing.
But the one's already basically dead. But then like that one actress, I don't remember her, I don't even know her name, but like she was, I just remember him saying something about like, oh, this is your coffin, dear, or something like that,
Yes.
Is this a coffin? Is this a coffin?
It's so brutal what they do to her. Not only does he bite her boob,
how he is. I think that was just kind of showing what type of person or what type of
and how opposite of Louis.
Yeah.
Right? Louis is panicking. He's like, finish what you started. And Lestat's like, no, you do it. And she is bleeding out of her boob, which is so disturbing. It's so gross. And then he's also slit her wrist and she's in total panic. And also she's drunk. So she's not even like totally. And then, then he puts her in this coffin. And then I love the shot of him flipping it open. They're fighting.
Oh, it is so intense.
It's so disturbing what they do to her. Cause then they're playing with her, cause then she's begging Louis. She's like, please help me, and then, and Louis just sort of is too chicken to help her do anything or just kill her, so then Lestat ends up killing her. Oh, that scene's brutal. I'm glad you're bringing that up because I remember that woman so well.
And then the poodle scene, obviously.
And then the poodle scene, we were talking about that because that was the famous shot burned in my brain of him snapping her neck. That was cut from YouTube.
It's so like
you hear it. It looks so real.
And
it really, the way he turns.
With that little thimble with the guy. He's like,
with the guy.
Going?
Another kind of gay thing going on. With, totally taking advantage of a seemingly queer guy, and then nowhere.
And Louis wanting to eat the dogs.
I know Louis with this woman who he's making out with, and and he could easily bite her, but he's like, I can't. I'll just kill your annoying dogs. That scene is so good, and I totally get it because then Lestat is furious with him. Like, are you insane?
And that's
you have this woman, and they do that famous kind of. I could see it being a little funny. I could picture people laughing, like flying against trees. But I do kind of love it.
The Tom Cruise laugh, that famous Tom Cruise laugh. So.
Yes, that maniacal. He knows Louis a baby. Yeah.
I can't stand this any longer.
What we are, didn't you?
And then we have the ending, which, like I said, I love when, Louis snaps on the interviewer, scares him away. We never really get a goodbye with Louis,
he gets like a little bite. No, he doesn't bite him. Sorry. Someone else bites him.
Right.
Yeah.
Lestat, yes, because he's in his convertible. He's crossing the Golden Gate Bridge. Yes. How iconic. And he's playing the tape of Louis, what he just recorded, freaking out. And then all of a sudden, I love this because, us, we love our scary stories. And I don't know if it's in the book. I wouldn't be surprised if they sort of
I
changed
have
this
to
for the
remember.
movie.
I would have to reread
You
it again.
know,
I can't
but it's
remember
just such a
telling you.
fun kind of
Yeah.
badass, thrilling ending where it's like, I guess I don't need an introduction or whatever he
Oh,
says, and
yes.
he bites him, and the car's
Like
swerving,
swerving, and then also
and
you
then
see like the hands, and then like
yes,
him
and then
pulling up his sleeves.
yes, he starts getting younger again. He's like, I already feel better
Oh
because
yes.
he's been sort of sick and like hiding for decades, I guess, right?
And then he puts on the
So.
radio,
And then,
and
yeah, please allow me to introduce myself,
yes.
which is fitting for this. It's kind of funny, and then he drives off, and he's
He just
loving
starts
life in this
laughing. He just
convertible.
starts
Yeah,
doing the Tom Cruise laugh again,
he's doing that maniacal laugh. Yeah,
and that's the end.
and it's pretty amazing to like totally modernize it, and like the Golden Gate
Yeah.
Bridge, which I was just saying with my husband Greg, like that bridge is in so many movies. Like
Oh my
it's
God.
crazy
It's
how
so iconic.
photographed that bridge is, but it's
It's like New York. It's like the New York.
It's like New York.
bridges,
It's like the Statue of Liberty,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
the
we
Brooklyn
end on
Bridge,
such a
yeah.
modern shot of now Lestat knows how to drive a car, I guess, and he's going off, and he's gonna
I
live.
guess it's just what he knows
Right?
what to do.
You like dying? You condemn me to hell!
Monster. One happy family.
But it is kind of sad to not get a proper goodbye with Louis. Like he's in full ferocious mode, right? But I don't think we
Louis
see
comes
him
back
again.
in the book with the vampire Lestat. He might. I think there's a
Oh.
continuation somewhere. I have like
Probably.
I said, it was so long ago. This is like middle school when
Yeah.
I read them.
Yeah.
Just so random. But I would love to go back and remember and reread them. To be honest,
Yeah.
at my age now, because I feel like I would
Right.
understand
you would pick
things a
up
lot
on
more.
so
and,
much
yeah,
more,
Pick up
yep.
on more. Yeah.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
They were great. So I
Oh,
would
yeah, I
recommend
bet.
anyone who wants to read them. I definitely recommend them.
Yeah, there's a whole series. And it's funny because the title of the film is technically called Interview with the Vampire Chronicles. So they really
That's why
were
I think
hoping
they
that it
were
would
going
start
to- yeah.
a franchise, right? But
Mhm.
just, I guess, random issues and lots of, like I said, development hell, And I
Yeah.
still have never seen Queen of the Damned, but I have to say, I think Stuart Townsend, from the clips I've seen and his look and his body, I think he seemed like a really good Lestat replacement. What do you think?
I saw it and I loved Aaliyah. I loved Aaliyah, and I was so sad.
Oh, I know. She looked great in that movie.
Yeah, and she really wanted that role really badly, and it's a great role. I don't think it. I think the script was the issue. It was not good writing. I
Yeah.
just think it was just,
Didn't get good
and
reviews.
it just wasn't. If like Neil Jordan, or like
Mm-hmm.
it took it over or something, I think it would have been completely different and amazing.
Right.
I just think, unfortunately, it just wasn't great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I kind of could sense that. And once I heard the
Yeah.
reviews back then, this was 20 years ago when it came out, I was like, all right, maybe I'll stay away. But, if you're not going to have Tom Cruise, I thought Stuart Townsend looked really good in that role. Maybe even better
No, he did.
than Tom.
He
Like
did,
I feel like his
definitely
whole
pulled it
vibe
off,
fit.
'cause
Yeah.
Lestat is kind of he's like in a band. He's in this
That's
like
so
rocker. This is one of his lives, and
Yeah.
he definitely had that persona for sure. It just a bad script. It just wasn't directed well, I don't think, and it was just kind of like, nah.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least we have this great movie and now the series, which,
Yes.
like I said, I got to jump into and see the changes and I'm sure more from the book is in there. Books,
No, and I
I
have to
should
shout
say.
out to a friend that went to AMDA with my Russell Lewis and his twin brother Matt. They are in the first season. So
Love that. Good for them.
They play the twins.
Oh, how funny.
But they're older. Obviously, it's a whole
Okay.
different take. But when you watch it,
Oh,
yeah.
how funny. So you
So I
went to school with them
Russell.
or with
I went to
him?
school with Russell. Yeah.
How funny.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Such a
so
sweetheart,
great.
and he deserves all the success. He was always such a sweetheart and so great. So
What
I'm
a
very
good
happy
shout
for
out.
him.
Love
Yeah.
that.
God kills indiscriminately, and so shall we.
Did you read that one trivia where like they weren't sure if they wanted to have two men? They weren't, because they were nervous. Like, Anne Rice was nervous about it.
Right.
So Louis was almost going to be female, and
Isn't that
Cher
crazy?
was
Cher.
going to Cher.
I had no idea. I looked that up too. I'm glad you're bringing
I
it up.
had no idea. I was
But
like, I've never
Cher
heard
would be
this.
perfect. Like
Oh,
I could totally,
yes.
especially in the 90s, I could absolutely see
Oh,
her fitting right in.
Absolutely.
But also
But
that just makes me sad that Anne would even have to change it because of the
she was
homophobia that she
nervous,
was
but I'm
sensing.
glad that like whoever ended up taking it on was like, no, we're
Right.
sticking with the book.
We're
We're
sticking with
the
it.
original.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah,
She
I
needs
love
to be
that
like
that Cher was in the mix. She was considered. She was not only considered, she was talked to about it because this also was mind blowing. She made a song called "Lovers
yes.
Forever" that she made for the film's soundtrack, but it got rejected once Pitt was ultimately cast for the role. So they were like, okay, sorry, Cher, we're not going to use you or your song. But she ended up, I read, putting that song, or at least a new version of it, on her 2013 album, Closer to the Truth. So now I got to listen to that song because that was originally meant for Interview with the Vampire. I love trivia like that.
Crazy? Yeah. And then
So
also
funny.
the fact that I'm sure everyone knows this though, that Anne Rice was not a fan of Tom Cruise to the point where she wouldn't even like
she was pissed.
promote the film. She wouldn't she didn't go to the screening. She was so against it because she was like, that is not lestat. He is not lestat.
And
then I guess
I read that she wanted them to even swap roles. She's like, make Brad lestat, which is funny because Louis has more screen time,
and I'm glad Brad wasn't, to be honest. I don't think at the time, because he was still fairly new, I don't see him pulling off lestat, in my opinion.
That dark, demonic
persona.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you.
Very theatrical. He is. And it's very dramatic. And it just see that in Brad,
Right. Brad was more kind of cool, calm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I guess when she actually did see it, she felt so bad that she like made a whole 2-minute, I think, little promo telling people to go see it and like apologizing to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I heard she called him and complimented him and said, "I'm sorry for doubting you."
Imagine being Tom Cruise. So like, as much as I don't really care for him, but I'm like, I would be horrified and so let down if like the person who made this story, who wrote
really
this,
hates me in this character. Yeah, that's rough. Like, that's not very cool for him. Yeah. No. So it's nice that she came around and ended up not only being happy with him, but I read somewhere that she basically was like, the second I saw him on screen, I was like, oh, I get it. Yeah, he is lestat. There's no one else but him.
Because if you don't know what makeup can do, if you don't know, if just looking at Tom Cruise from like Top Gun or something like that, you'd be like, what? No, like I can't see that at all. But he definitely did. He had the blonde hair, long blonde hair. He definitely was different.
Yep. Oh yeah, totally different for him, but he pulls it off. Yeah. And speaking of the makeup you mentioned, I'll end us with one more fun fact. I thought this was so interesting and not great. I would not like this. So Stan Winston did the makeup and effects for this movie. He had worked on Jurassic Park, Terminator 2. I mean, he's such a talented guy. He designed the characters' vampire appearances and the makeup effects, including the technique for stenciling their blue veins. On their faces.
Yeah.
And so you might have seen this. I can't believe this. So to do the veins, they actually spent so much time to make them like authentic and not just lines. The actors, this required the actors to hang upside down for 30 minutes, which already I'm feeling woozy.
You couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Nope.
No way. So that the blood would rush to their heads and cause their veins to protrude. Already, I'm about to bomb.
I know,
and
right?
That would help them then trace their actual vein. Oh my God. So
I know.
Yuck. But I hope they didn't have to do that like every day. They had to do the veins. So hopefully it was just a one-time thing.
I hope so
and then maybe they, just traced it or something. But I just thought that was wild. But it really goes to show the artistry and the authenticity of this movie. That it wasn't just like, we'll give you squiggly lines. Like that's what I would do. But it's like, no, we're gonna actually find,
your actual veins.
Oh,
gross.
I
know. It was
Can you imagine little Kirsten Dunst upside down being like, how much longer, Oh. God,
like a bat, literally
brutal, right? Exactly. Yeah, you're right. That's the bat vampire theme right there behind the scenes.
Take her, Louis, end her suffering and yours. For do not doubt, you are a killer.
One last thing I'll say, of course, it was, like we said, it was nominated for Oscars, Golden Globes, it won a BAFTA, but it also was nominated and won some MTV Movie Awards.
Yes.
The awards it won were Best Male Performance and Most Desirable Male. Those two went to Brad. So
of course.
Even though his performance isn't like the best in the world, it just goes to show how the MTV crowd just loved him. Yeah. Most Desirable Male, of course. And then Kirsten Dunst won Best Breakthrough Performance at the MTV Movie Awards. So I thought that was obviously fitting.
Yeah.
And it did win a Razzie, which Razzies are stupid anyway. Who cares? But it won a Razzie for Worst Screen Couple for Tom and Brad. I thought that was funny. But talk about Modern Family. We got vampires, you know, 2 dads, a little girl who's 100 years old. I mean, whoa.
It was
you know,
for its time. Yeah.
One weird family, right? I think it's aged pretty well, personally.
I agree.
Right?
I will probably watch it for forever and ever. So, right?
And like a vampire
Forever.
would.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
What else do you do? Let's watch the same movies over and over.
Interview with the Vampire.
And that is part 1 of Pitt Fest, Interview with the Vampire. Thanks, Anne Rice, for all the chills, thrills, and homoerotic vibes. Very nice. And thank you out there for listening. If you follow me on Instagram at Release Date Rewind, which you should be, you'll have seen a few days ago I did a poll asking which duo was better in Louis and Lestat. Was it Tom and Brad from this 1994 movie, or was it the guys from the TV show on AMC Plus? And Tom and Brad won. So the OGs still got it, I guess. Also, everybody, this movie surpassed Home Alone 2 Lost in New York to achieve a November record when it was released. So Brad and Tom really did attract audiences. Thank you so much to my friend Sabrina Santoro from emerging from the shadows to join me on this episode. Thanks Straw Hat Media, Kyle Motzinger, Greg Clements, and Portland Media Center. And part 2 of Pitt Fest is next, and we're showing skin and muscles and sweat. It's the 25th anniversary of Fight Club. See you there.